Welcome to another episode of the Red Arrow Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Marco, with my dark and mysterious co-host,
Jessica.
How's it going, Jessica?
Spooky.
Well, you're the one with like black headphones, black shirt. I don't know what
we
you're wearing.
don't have
pants.
multicolored headphones over here. We have black ones.
I can't see your pants from here. Plus, it's a black table, so then it's like the black shirt flows into the black table. I mean, you could be full Lieutenant Dan after that.
Black is slimming. Go with that.
Yeah, sure. It is, actually. But anyway, how's it going? I've barely seen you. You had to go to work. I had to go to the kids and then try to get some work done between phone calls of, come pick up kid number 4. She's running a fever.
Poor kid number 4.
Poor kid number
She's
4.
got a cold.
And then you came home and I took off for bike rides, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then came inside and cooked dinner and had dinner with the kids. But you were on a video.
It's on like a Zoom call.
It was like a seminar.
Yep.
For continuing education credits, and you just wrapped that up. We finished putting the last of the kids to bed, and now it's podcast time, and now I can finally talk to you.
Yay.
But before we do all that, let's do what we always do. What are you drinking?
I don't know.
There's a variety tonight down here.
There's a whole lot of whiskey down here tonight.
Given that we're not doing, this is not a tasting flight episode.
Nope. So maybe before I tell you what I'm drinking, why don't you tell everybody why we have all of this?
We have this down here because partly as a reminder to me, as I go through this, I wanted to say thank you to the guys and gals who got it for me. And I knew by the time I came down here and started doing this, I would forget the details, or like, oh, it's that one in the cool bottle, or, you know. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just bring them down so I can read the labels, and that'll jog my memory also. I mean, I remember who gave them to me. So working from left to right in front of us, we've got a bottle of Knob Creek Smoked Maple, which is 90 proof, and that's from Claremont, Kentucky. You and I really like Knob Creek, and this is their Smoked Maple edition. This one was a gift from Dave in the Hockey League.
Awesome.
El Chapo. And a bunch of players that he was with, and I asked him, hey, text me all the names, because he gave it to me right before the hockey draft. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to remember everybody. Just put it in a text for me.
Aw.
And sure enough, I don't remember everybody. I think it was just everybody who was on his team. But that, and also the bottle that's next to it, which is from the Traverse City Whiskey Company, which is a whiskey company. We like a lot of their products. This one's their American Cherry Edition, 35%. Mm-hmm. But it's just, it's their bourbon whiskey, and then they infuse it with Traverse City cherries and a few other natural flavors. That was one I was actually sipping on during the actual draft. And then next to that is one from Greg, another hockey captain. And I can't remember if it's from Greg and his team or just from Greg. This is one that he had gotten for me a few years ago as a thing. And, and all of these are thank yous for being the commissioner and doing all the stuff that goes with hockey. But this is another addition from the Wilderness Trail. It's their bourbon whiskey. It's a Kentucky straight bourbon, and it's done in small batches. This one's 100 proof, and it's damn tasty. And that's actually what you put in your glass over there.
Thanks. I see the icon. That's not the word for it.
Label?
No, the design
Logo?
on the label. Yeah, the logo. Thank you. I see the logo on it, and all I can think of is the Witcher.
Well, because it has it's Wilderness Trail, so it's a W with a T, but then there's like coming out of it is a tree, and there's a lot going on there, and it's actually kind of cool.
It is cool and delicious. And
then last but not least on the table in front of us is the one I'm drinking tonight, and this is the Woodinville bourbon whiskey, and this is out of Washington State, from Woodinville, Washington. And so this is a bourbon pot distilled, and when they do this, they age it in charred oak barrels, just like you would normally would. But what they do is they actually take the wood for the barrel before they cooper it and put it all together. They leave it outside and let it age and get rained on and snowed on and baked in the sun and everything. And what they say is that it helps take out some of the tannins, but it also creates some different characteristics to it. So this is a handcrafted bourbon. made in Washington. This particular one is a distillery exclusive. And this is a gift from, we've mentioned him before on the podcast because he very, very generously gave me a bottle of Irish whiskey that we were sipping on a few episodes ago. And this one is also from Sexy Rexy the goalie. And yeah, Rex, this is awesome. And on top of it, you know, if this bottle wasn't, you know, and all these bottles weren't generous enough and awesome tokens of appreciation, which I deeply appreciate. This one is a little bit different than the other ones because Rex had it engraved.
He did. It's so nice.
And so at first I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Thank you. He's like, no, you need to read the bottle. I'm like, okay, Woodinville. And then in the next part, just before it says straight bourbon whiskey, there's this little area. And in there it says Dr. Tomasi, the Commissioner, Beer League.
It's so awesome.
It is so awesome.
I was tickled to death when I saw it.
Yeah, I'm just like, holy crap. Yeah, I am at a bit of a loss of words. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I was sipping on it a little bit last night, and that's what I have right now. And I'm having it in my World's Best Ass Coach, Marco Tomasi glass from Coach Dan, ass being assistant.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm not going to bleep it on this one, because it's ASS period. Yes. Now, if I was talking about butts, then we'd bleep it out, because that's how we do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this bottle, we haven't kept empty bottles in a very long time, but this one we're keeping.
Not since we were keeping like
highlighter bottles
back in
the
college.
Absolute bottles.
With the black light behind it.
Classy.
Put it in the window.
Okay.
Oh, we're keeping this one.
Yeah, this one is very lovely.
This one will go right next to on my desk up above when it's empty, where I've got the nameplate. A whole bunch of my undergrad students, who had been working for me and working on my research, got together, and I finished my doctorate, and I was still teaching, and I stuck around in a faculty position. But when I got it, my students, and my research team, all immediately started calling me Dr. Tomasi, Dr. Tomasi. I'm like, no, it's Marco. And then a bunch of other students who were just hanging around, and they're in the various student organizations that I was helping be the advisor for or around, were like, hey, Marco. And they're like, it was almost like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. It was like, no, you call him Dr. Tomasi. So they got together and they got me that nameplate, and I've had it, and I've actually caught flack for it at some of my jobs because I've had it there. And they're like, that's kind of arrogant to have that there and make people think they need to call you that. I'm like, there's a story behind it. And I'll tell you that. And I've not always kept it front and center on my desk. Sometimes it's been like if I have multiple desks in my office, it's on the back one by the window. But it has a lot of sentimental feeling with it. And right now, and ever since we've moved back to Michigan, I've got a desk with like a hutch over the top, and it's way up on top, but right in the center. And it's there, and it always makes me think of that group, that team, that were really like a set of kids for us. Mm-hmm. Not that they were childish or anything, but it was like we helped them, and they worked for us. They did stuff, but like we helped them and got to watch them grow and mature in their professional lives, and now they're
all grown up now,
off being awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, that was probably the most lengthy explanation on what we're drinking, other than the episodes where the whole thing is about drinking. Yes. But big thank you to Dave and his crew, Greg and Rex. Thanks so much, guys. I deeply appreciate it.
Me too. Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers.
There has to be some perks with being Mrs. Commish. Yum.
Yeah, it's so good. We talked about the draft, but
Well, kind of. That's where the whiskeys came from. There was a draft.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the draft?
We can talk about the draft, but
do you want to talk about Super Saturday?
Let's talk about draft day, all that went into it.
Oh yeah, that was.
It was all. There's a lot going on that day. So all on one given Saturday, we had. I had to get up early because I rode in the Beer 30, which we've spoken about before, with the Pachyderm peddlers and open to the community. Great turnout. Got to speak with Greg a little bit at a few of the stops, and he was pretty pleased. It was not as big as it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
But still, they had a great turnout, given that some people are still very nervous about doing these sort of things. And then some people are also nervous, and even us with our races. Do we want to sign up? Is it going to get canceled at the last minute?
Yep.
So beautiful weather. This is it's kind of like a pub crawl on a bicycle. And it's for charity. It supports a outfit called Cycle Recycle, where they take old bikes, they fix them up, and they sell them. Or if you want to come in and get your bike tuned up, they won't tune it up for you, but they'll teach you how to do it.
Yeah.
And then also kids who can't afford a bicycle, they'll bring you in, they'll teach you how to fix up stuff, and you can earn credit towards one by working on these old donated bikes that they're setting up to sell. So a great charity. In fact, we got kid number 2's newest bicycle there because, I mean, he's growing so fast. He's going to need it for about 2 years, and then he's going to outgrow it. And we didn't want to spend like $400 or $500.
No.
Remember when bikes, like a decent bike, was like maybe $100?
Yes.
God, we're old.
I was just going to say, we've just morphed into grandparent territory there with that one.
I know. Anyway. So a great charity. My dad and I were doing it. My dad was talking a big game. He's like, all right, we're gonna go 15, 17 miles an hour. Great.
How'd that go?
Yeah. Dad was hurting because he was working on his rentals the day before. So we started off when we're going like 11, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to take forever. I'm like, because when he says 15, I can usually like keep him distracted with conversation and get it up to like 17 or 18 or 19.
Yeah.
No. So we start out, and then like at one point he's like, I feel like I'm biking uphill. And I'm like, you are biking uphill. But also the way he sits now, take the pressure off his back, he's raised up the neck on his bike, so he's somewhere upright. Well, it was windy, so then he's like a big kite.
Oh.
But we got to the first stop, and then we changed directions, and the wind was with us, and other spots where the wind was like blocked by the trees. It was great. But you went basically brewery to brewery, and they had beer for you. And we had these cool little tasting cups.
Yeah, they're pretty cute.
Yeah, they are. Mm-hmm. And the first one stop, actually, Silly Sausage was there. I need to contact them and get the picture that they took of me. They put it up on their Facebook page. But they had their take on Pigs in a Blanket. It was sausage and a biscuit. And then...
What was it?
Outstanding. Definitely not low carb, but yummy.
Yay.
And then a beer. And then we went and hit a few other stops. And then actually at one point we went down to Infusco...
Coffee?
Roasters, yeah, down in Sawyer, Michigan, and that was kind of like the turnaround point. At that point, they had their cold brew coffee, nitro coffee, in a keg, and so that was perfect to hit the spot. They had cookies that somebody made, homemade cookies. I obviously didn't have a cookie, but
you're no fun.
I know. And then before we head back to the start-finish spot of Watermark Brewing, we actually also hit Pete's Cider Social, which we were at in episode 20 when we were speaking with Greg and Liz and about cycling and everything. Well, we went there. It's the first time my dad's been there since they've converted it into a tasting house for ciders and also cleaned up. And they got the bowling lanes open, but it's clean. It's not as scuzzy as it was when we were in high school.
Scuzzy.
Yeah, actually, it's not. I said ass scuzzy. It's not scuzzy at all. It was scuzzy back in high school. It's really neat, clean, funky. They got the 1950s retro vibe going in there. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So Dan was walking around. It was good to see him. But we rode back. They had a raffle afterwards. So I actually rode home and then drove back and started working on stuff for the draft. Hung out for the raffle. Won one of the prizes.
You did.
A whole bag of stuff.
That was cool.
It was really cool. And then I went over to the rink, and we had the captain's meeting where we go over the rules, and we rank all the players, and we work through all the issues, and we find all the missing. We try to fill all the empty goalie holes and phone calls. Yeah.
About that.
Fun story about that one. But we have the draft, we pick the teams, and then I go home and I clean up the stuff, and I have to clean up the email list and all the people who signed up at the last second, and I write a giant email, and I email out, this is what's going on, here are the rules, here are the teams, here's the schedule. The schedule's pre-made with placeholders, but like this time, we didn't know how many teams we were going to have, so I had to make for the various divisions. I made a generic 8-team schedule, a generic 6-team schedule, and a generic 4-team schedule, and then whatever each division had, that's what you had. I had the times, but everything's like with team 1, team 2, team 3. Depending on what your draft pick is, and we draw the names out of a hat, that's, if you're pick number 1, you're team number 1 on it. Well, I got to go and clean that up. And so it takes me a couple hours to do all that, and I send it out. Of course, by the time as I'm working on it, I got angry emails coming in, and people are like, I'm like, chill out. I mean, I'm working as fast as I can. I know there's always angry emails on it. It's like, I don't really get to see my family on these weekends. Especially since like you had to take all the kids to hockey because kid 3 followed by kids 2 and 1 had hockey that day in the morning while I was out riding my bike.
Yeah.
Oh, but we made it through it. As for the draft, we got the season going, but I mean, it was interesting leading into it. Throughout the week, I'm giving the captains updates. Okay, this is the registration. And hockey players are a bunch of procrastinators. They wait till the last freaking second anyway. But I'm trying to project how many captains I have to have lined up, what kind of schedule I have to have lined up. Looking at like the day before the draft, we were hitting the threshold to have 8 teams on our Sunday night division, which is a hybrid division of 40 and over, and then C players. But we also have our beginner adult hockey going on. And then on Monday night, we have another hybrid, which is B players and A players put together because we're a relatively small hockey community. But as we're looking at this, I'm like, okay, I was anticipating, hey, if we plus up, will person X and person Y be our next 2 captains? And I was actually going to take the season off from being a captain, and I had 6 captains lined up. And I'm like, okay, if we hit 8, I'll be one of the extra captains. And I asked one of the other captains, past captains, who was taking a season off from being a captain. She was still going to play. I'm like, will you do it too? And she's like, yes, I'm tired of doing this, but yeah, I'll do it. And then I did the same thing for the AB League. I'm like, I had 2 spares backed up. But we're looking at it, and I did it for goalies too. I was lining up goalies. I'm like, okay, if we plus up, will you do it? Well, we were looking at the registration, and even though I had the bonus goalies lined up, we had a few of the regulars decide not to come back because they had work conflicts, and they're like, I'm not signing up for a 14-game schedule that I'm going to miss 11 or 12 of.
Oh, that sucks.
So going into the draft in that room that afternoon, I knew I had 8 Sunday night teams, and I had on paper 6 goalies. And on Monday night, I had 4 teams in that division, but only 3 goalies. And it's like, well, crap. I got one. I have one goalie that goes can flip flop both sides. He's right on the cusp between the 2. But if I move him to Monday and fill up Monday, now I'm down to 5 for my 8 teams. I'm short 3. So start working the phones, and then while I'm doing and this is as people were walking into the building to start this captain's meeting, I get on the phone with Mr. Rink owner. I'm like, okay, here's the plan. We'll work out some sort of deal with one of the AB goalies who's not returning, so we can convince him to come back, so we can keep the other guy on Sunday nights. But it still leaves me with 2 vacancies, and I really don't like going into the draft with 2 vacancies. So kid number one, we'll put her on the board. As long as you don't object, I mean, it's your rink, your liability, but and I'm her dad. I'm okay with it. You okay with it? You're also her coach. He's like, well, we would prefer to have adults in the adult league. I'm like, yeah, no, I know that, but I don't have adults. I
prefer to not have my kid in that league too.
I would prefer to have kid number 1 over an empty net, though.
It's true. Yes.
And that's pretty much what it was. So we went into the draft, and I explained to the captains, and this is not the first time we've done this. One of the other captains, his daughter, who is only a year, well, she's a grade older. They go to the same school as kid number 1. She was drafted, and we've had some other kids before. We're pretty hard on the line of you got to be 18 to play in any of our leagues, except at goalie. We'll bend on goalie
just because there's so few goalies in the world.
Yeah, I mean we got the contact information between the rosters and the sub lists. We have 23 goalies. Getting them to actually sign up and show up, though, is a little bit harder. They're all like, yeah, put me on the sub list. But then it's like, okay, do you want to come sub? No. You want to sign up for the league? No. I don't got time for that. It's like, all right. So, and she was aware that I was already running short and I was stressing. So she was like stalking my office door all week going, how many goalies you got?
She's
like,
so
go
funny.
away. I'm looking for adults. You're 12. I'm looking for adults. Well,
So
all right.
funny.
But then it's like, okay, she's in. So then I had to go in front of this captain's meeting and own it. And like, all right, she's in. Her equipment is rated to hold up to the C40 plus league. She's been playing against adults since January 2000 in various forms. She's subbed in our league twice already as an emergency backup.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's going to be a starter. And so that no one gets really pissed off, we're going to make her a block. So she's just going to be on my team. And we do that with family members.
Yeah.
You can be in a block of 2. And then, so we had a draw for draft picks, and I'm really worried. I'm like, God, I really hope I'm not the number 1 overall draft pick. Because 1, it's a snake draft.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be at the 1 because that makes me like, I got to wait all the way. So it snakes all the way back on we start with the goalies. So I want a good forward or defenseman.
Gotcha.
But also, it's easier to explain picking her up at number 7 or 8 than it is picking her up at number 1 because we're in a block and guys get upset. Well, sure enough, we end up being number 7. And I'm like, I can live with that, especially since I signed on as an expansion goalie or captain this time.
An expansion goalie.
So I was number 7 and I automatically had my daughter. And then the captain after me got next available. We actually wrote in as the name tag, next available. Snakes around, that captain gets the number 1 overall player, forward or defenseman. And then I got the next one after that, and then it just snaked through.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because everyone who signs up gets on a team. So we did all that. Yay, I'm on my team with my daughter. We had to pick jerseys, and like the jerseys are laid out. The commissioner gets to pick them, and I'm like, usually I pick a color I really like red. But this time I'm like, I'm the number 7 pick. I said I would be an extra captain this time, playing with my kids. So like, I don't have aspiration. I'm not thinking of like aspiring to the championship, although I never do because I never win it in this league, and that's the running gag. So I took the lavender ones.
Lavender.
The lavender jerseys.
They are pretty.
They're not that bad when you wear them with the socks, but yeah, they are super lavender.
These look like purple nightmares.
We look like Easter eggs.
You do look like Easter eggs.
We look like Easter eggs. But kid 1 went out there and she played, and oh, by the way, after the draft, we had another goalie sign up, and so he's on the next available one. Given the 2, and then even if he ever hears this, I'll say it to his face, I'd rather have kid 1 than him because I've had him before.
Marcus.
So they faced off. We played that team in the first game. We lost 6-4, but kid 1 played great. Afterwards, I'm like, are there any of those goals you let in that you think you could have stopped? She's like, I think I could have had 3 of them. Like, thinking to myself, damn it, that would have made the difference. We would have won. But she did well. She's excited. She was happy. Afterwards, we had a cooler full of beer, and then I had a note on top of it that said, hey, the 2 Vernors in there, which if you're not familiar with Vernors, it's a ginger ale. For her, they're actually sugar-free ones. And then this week I went out and bought some sugar-free A&W root beer for her, so she can have root beer at Beer League.
Awesome and we flushing?
Yeah, that's what it stands for, A&W. Mm-hmm. Awesome and we flushing. So she's excited. The guys that were on the team were pretty cool about it, and I told them, like, here's the deal, though. Anytime we have a late game, she's got to get up and go to 7th grade, so she's not playing any of the late games. And I told all the captains this at the draft, too, so it's not a secret.
Yeah.
And I'm like, in case anyone's worried that, like, the first game, and I told them in the locker room before, I'm like, if she's going to let goals in, so we're going to have to score. And sure enough, we didn't score enough in that game. And, like, actually, at one point during the intermission, she goes, you need to tell your team they need to shoot more and actually hit the net.
She said that to you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You go tell them, they're your teammates, too. She's like, yeah, but they keep when they do shoot, they keep hitting the boards and missing the target. I'm like, welcome to Beer League, Jess. Or not Jess.
You wish.
Welcome to Beer League, kid 1. No, she played well. But when we get to, one thing I did tell them, though, is like, look, if we get completely blown out and you're afraid that's how the whole season's going to go, anytime we have a late game, I'm bringing in a sub.
Cool.
Yeah. And if her grades drop, we're bringing in a sub.
If her grades drop, this is over.
Yeah. I'm not too worried. I was just looking at her grades today. So anyway, that was Super Saturday, and then the game on Sunday. Ooh. Yeah. And then this week we also had the last of the back to school nights.
Thank goodness.
We've survived all the back to school nights.
All 4. No, what? 3?
4. We have 4 kids.
There was 4 kids, but 2 of them were on the same night. So there's 3 back to school nights.
Okay, 3 back to school nights.
The 4 classrooms.
Yeah, classrooms.
So many kids.
One of them we had to this week. You and I had to go and divide and conquer.
We did.
We conquered. Yes, all in person.
Woot woot. With masks.
Yep.
Worn without issue.
Nope. Nobody threw a fit in the classroom.
No, I meant us.
Oh,
we wore them without issue. The end.
Yay.
I really like going to back to school nights though because you get to see all of the kids' artwork.
That was fun.
It's really cute. And I missed that a lot last year.
I liked walking down the hall, and every so often I would see someone's self-portrait they had done. And
yep.
That kid looks like they're holding a hockey stick. And then I go look in her road, and I'm like, oh, I know that kid. I coach that kid. Or, oh, I know that kid. I coach that kid.
That's funny.
So cute.
And we've been doing bike nights.
We have. Kid 1 has been riding with us this summer. And we were going to, we went to a couple of Bike Buchanans. Those were hard because they were on goalie clinic night. But we were doing pachyderm peddlers pretty frequently. And even a few times, like, you got off work late. And so, like, we would watch them all ride out as you're like frantically trying to get the bike all set up. And it's like, just chill, let them go. And we'll go do the 3 of us, you, me, and my dad. Or actually the 4 of us, you, me, my dad, and kid number 1. But kid number 2 really, really wanted to go. So he got a bike for his birthday, and he can't ride quite at their speed. So we've been leaving from our house about the same time, but we're keeping the Thursdays to get that vibe going because we're hoping by next summer he can go with us. Yep. And the 4 of us would, sometimes if you made it home in time, the 4 of us, actually, it'd be the 5 of us. If you're there.
If I'm there, then it's 5 because your dad likes to come.
Yeah, that's true. I keep forgetting about my dad. So it's my dad and I, kid number 1, and then kid number 2, and we go. And kid number 2 is interesting because he starts slow and he finishes. He has his fastest miles at the end of the ride. And there's been a few times where we're out riding. We ride very similar routes to the pachyderm peddlers, obviously, because those are also the routes we've been doing for a couple of years now. One time we were at Daddy House. Hey, we picked up a few followers. I'm like, okay, yeah. And I look in my mirror and I see one rider. And then a little bit further, kid 1 yells, "Car up!" Because there's a car ahead of us. And all of a sudden I hear this like chorus of "Car up, car up, car up" coming from me. I'm like, wow, what the hell? How many people are behind us? I turn around. It is the slow roll group from the pachyderms had met up with us. And at that point, kid 2 was going at the pace they ride. So they just stuck with him. So he's all of a sudden leading this entire group.
That's awesome.
And then we got down to about the final turn, and they all went left to go back to the brewery, and we went right to go back to our house. Mm-hmm. And we did the same thing today. Although today we went out at 5 o'clock, so we could have dinner at a decent time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of all the excitement and what's been going on. Awesome. Well, let's get into our main feature. I mean, that was a long intro, but it's also kind of catching everybody up on us, and that's part of what our podcast is about, is us and parents and kids and school and bikes and hockey drafts and beverages. It's cool. So, beverages. Hey, we're into fall.
Woot woot.
Yeah. And we mentioned it on our last episode. Florida State lost to Notre Dame. And we're sad about that.
Yeah, actually we are. That was a hard day at work the next day.
That was heartbreaking. You didn't have to go to work that next day. That was a Sunday
on Monday.
The Monday was Labor Day.
On Tuesday. Okay. It was discussed, and I was made fun of, especially by the lady that likes Alabama. She was just absolutely giddy over the whole thing.
Did she say anything when we lost to Jacksonville State this most recent weekend?
She didn't.
Well,
she only cared about Florida State because they were playing Notre Dame. She's like, I almost texted you, and I was like, you could have. It would have been hilarious.
Win or lose on football season, this ties into our main feature tonight, which is tailgate season favorites. So this is a food episode, and we're gonna get into al fresco dining, usually in close proximity to the rear end of a vehicle.
Yes.
Whether it be for football, hockey, cross country, track, soccer, baseballs, softball, and so on. Lacrosse, if you're one of the rare parts of the country that are doing that. But we're doing tailgating, and we've made reference to this before, especially like when the locker rooms were shut down and things were chaotic last fall, and we were literally having tailgate meals. Like, I broke out a little bench and chairs, and the kids were using my tailgate of my truck.
Yeah, that was really cute.
As a table. But also, you and I went to Florida State. we like to tailgate, and sometimes we simulate that here when there's a game on. And we've done that also with hockey stuff too. It's there's a good hockey game on TV. What's for dinner? We're doing a tailgate cookout right in the driveway.
Woot.
But then we're going to eat in the kitchen around the deck.
Yeah.
So that's our feature tonight. Let's do some segue music and we'll dive into it. Ready, Jessica?
Ready.
All right. Tailgate season favorites. Let's start off when we get into this. Not everybody really cares about their diet, and people have their own. Whether if they are watching what they eat, they have various things going on, and sometimes they're working with a nutritionist or a dietitian, and other times they're just going it on their own and making it up as they go, and sometimes they're just staring at Instagram and Facebook and going with the fad or whatever. Mm-hmm. You and we've discussed this. We do low carb. Now, that's not for everybody. Cool. But if you are going low carb, what are some of the pitfalls when it comes to tailgating? You got to watch out, especially if you go to a tailgate party.
Yeah, tailgating is usually full of bread.
You got to watch out for the bread. That's got carbs in it.
And just a few.
Just a few. And there's a lot of sandwiches and buns and pitas and French bread they're putting into dips and everything. And what else? I mean, the bread. There's lots of bread. Tortillas. Flatbread, I guess.
Yep.
French bread. Cuban bread. If you're down in Florida, I still love going to Publix and getting a loaf of Cuban bread.
Yum.
And then along with that are the chips.
Yeah.
I guess we are getting a significant following in England now, so it could be also it could also be the French fries, those kind of chips, but like also the potato crisps, if you so would call them.
Potato crisps. I think I should just start calling all chips crisps because that just sounds delightful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, chips and dip and tortillas and pico de gallo but watch out for those chips because they got carbs.
Breaded and fried foods.
Delightful, but watch out for the carbs.
So terrible for you.
I mean, we've spoken about ways we get around that when we make stuff at home, like we do fried perch. The kids actually use breading. Mm-hmm. But you and I use mashed up pork rinds to get that same crunchy texture on our fish and then fry it up, but to keep the carb count low so that we can still have the food we love and not have to worry about the macros we don't love. Sweet treats, you got to watch out for them because chances are they didn't make a low-carb friendly take on it. They probably just loaded in all the sugar.
Absolutely. Also, there's sodas.
I mean, one of our favorites were rum and cokes when we used to tailgate in college.
Right, you can put your alcohol in sodas or you can just drink the soda. Or juice. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we used to get in the stadium and get the biggest Coke they was sold, which was ginormous. It's like movie theater vat of Coca-Cola. Pour half of it out, fill it up with all the rum we smuggled into the stadium.
Yep. Yep.
And then spend the first half drinking that and the second half
vomiting.
In your case. But yeah, the sodas, and also watch out for those pre-mixed cocktails. Now that, yes, there's the hard seltzers, which are lower carb now, some of them, but there's a lot of those pre-mixed ones and like margaritas in a bucket and stuff, and they're just full of sugar. And what were the pre-made test tube shots?
Oh, those are fun.
We used to get at like the Publix we had right by our house in Florida had like
we got test tube shots?
Yeah, we did. Alcohol. It had the beer section, then it had the little igloo room of glassed in one of just all sorts of stuff.
So nice to walk in there in Florida because it's hot there.
Yes.
The igloo room will cool you right down.
Speaking of the igloo room, watch out for the beer. I mean,
I don't have this problem because I don't drink beer.
No, but
I don't need to worry about this one.
If you're pounding beer after beer, you're having carbs.
Carbs.
Carbs. And then, most people don't think about this, but meatballs and sausages, there can be hidden carbs because it depends on what kind of filler they put in.
Yeah, a lot of people use like mushed up crackers in there or
panko breadcrumbs. So they go, we'll make it lighter by using panko instead of Italian breadcrumbs, which make it a denser meatball. And same with the sausages, they'll throw fillers in there. Mm-hmm. But there are ones out there that are relatively low carb, but you don't always know if you're going to somebody else's.
Right, if somebody else is hosting. You're not going to want to be like, so what'd you put in the meatballs?
Yeah.
You're just going to want to eat it.
I mean, you can ask, but if it is a huge spread and mass produced. It's probably from one of those like food service type places, the sell in bulk, and most likely you can count it having filler in it.
Awesome.
So those are the pitfalls, and I wanted to get the Debbie Downer stuff out of the way right away.
Womp womp.
So point 2 on all this, Jessica. The keys to success.
Wait, I thought I was going to say, you said Jessica.
Okay.
I thought that meant
I was just trying to get your attention.
You have my attention.
You were staring at your phone.
Because I'm looking for a cute certificate frame. Because mine broke at work and now I need something better.
That's sad.
It is sad.
All right. The keys to success. If you're on a special diet, such as low carb, but if you've got some other special diet going on, whatever it might be.
Yeah. You guys know the diets. We don't need to list them.
Yeah. What are the keys to succeeding on sticking close to your diet?
Communicate the fact that you are on a diet with the people that you're doing a tailgate with
in advance. Don't show up and be a complete and go,
I'm doing keto and I can't have carbs. Give me the food without the carbs that you made. They'll hand you like a pile of lettuce.
I need gluten-free. Where are the gluten-free buns? Communicate in advance. Hey, I got this going on. You got anything going on? I don't want you to make any special things, or what are you serving?
Right.
And so I kind of figure out and plan ahead of time and not make a scene.
Yeah, and you can, offer to bring something that you can share with everybody else that will for sure fit in with your diet that you're following.
I take it you read my notes ahead of time.
No, actually,
because that's my next one.
I'm sorry.
Because after communicate, I have contribute.
No,
bring something you can eat. One, you're bringing something. It's always good measure to bring something, but then make sure it's something you can eat. Because if all else fails, you got that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
As you're going down the line and of the various amazing foods people brought, when in doubt, just skip it.
Yeah. And then there's the other one I like.
What's that?
Everything in moderation.
Well, that's good sense. Even if you're not on a special diet, all things in moderation.
But even if you are on a special diet, sometimes, at least this is how I like to do it because I'm a human and I want to fully enjoy my human experience. It's okay to go off of your special diet and have like a taste of somebody's grandma's favorite peach cobbler that they brought to the tailgate. Okay.
Even, and the human thing was a little offensive there, Jessica.
No, it's not.
It was moderation would be, even if you're not on a special diet, maybe not have, whatever the dish, a full serving of every dish. And by serving, I mean like
a plate full.
A plate full. If a plate full of this is a full dinner for you, don't have a full plate full of every single dish down the line and just pig out and be gluttonous on all of it.
Yeah.
Have a taste of everything. Fine. But that also is one way to keep all your carbs down, is you're just having a small sampling of everything. If they bring 12 different sauces on the wings, don't have 12 of each type of sauce on, or 12 wings of each type of sauce. Have one of each.
Yep. Also, this way you can share with everybody else.
Yeah. So moderation, communicate, contribute. When in doubt, skip it. And then moderation, which should apply to everybody. Mm-hmm. And that gets the boring stuff out of the way. Let's get into the fun stuff, which are, point 3 on this, our favorite dishes. So we broke this up by categories of dishes, and then what are our favorite things to have when tailgating down the line. So first up, the classics. Like when you think tailgating, the run of the mill, we're not doing the fancy ones and the obscure and the amazing ones you see on college game day where they're like, oh, this is something special, this campus, the amazing ones as they walked around. Just the classic tailgate. Jessica, our favorites out of classic dishes.
Hamburgers.
I also like brats, and the kids like hot dogs.
Mm-hmm. And sausages. But burgers, and it's hard to screw up a burger, and they're low carb. Yeah.
I mean, if you are going low carb, skip the bun. If you're not going low carb, have the bun. Who cares? If you're going low carb, I would say skip the ketchup. I know they make
like a sugar-free
ketchup. But seriously, if you're over the age of 12, give up the ketchup. It just masks the flavor. Everything. Get good tasting beef, season it well, enjoy that taste of it. Maybe a little mustard. Throw on some pickles, some onions. grill those onions. Mushrooms with blue cheese, some
God.
bacon.
You could just saute the mushrooms and have them available. And that would be good too.
There's
Put
so
it
many
on your
things you could
burger,
do with
it'll
that
be great.
burger. And yes, they make, if you're low carb, they make keto buns. Like, they taste like
They
just go
don't
without.
taste like but they're rather bland.
They're so bland that it's like, what's the point? Just have the burger without it. Hot dogs, there's you got to watch out there. Basically, the hot dogs, the brats, the sausages, you just got to look and see. Some are putting a bunch of fillers in there, which unnecessarily jack up the carbs.
Yeah.
Look, you want meat in tube form.
Tube.
So there really shouldn't be a whole lot of carbs in it, and there shouldn't be carbs in it. So get something that's relatively low in carbs if you're watching your carbs. If you're not, have whatever you want. Just have it in moderation. And really with this, it's hard to screw it up.
Yeah.
So let's dive into, we got some regional favorites now. We'll call it this our northern favorite.
Yes. It's, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Marco's chili.
It is. I've done this one. I've brought it to regional track meet or cross country meets.
Oh my God. Did you let the runners eat it before they ran?
No, they had it
Okay,
afterwards. The
that's
parents
good.
were eating it. And actually, while they were running, because it was a morning race, it was cooking in the slow cooker, the crock pot. So the way I do this when we have a morning meet is I actually do all my prep work ahead of time. I brown the meats. I cut up all the veggies. I have everything laid out, and I put them all in the fridge. And so the morning of, I dump them all in the crock pot, and I plug it in. I have an outlet in my car. Plug it in and put it on low and let it cook the whole way up. And then they have the race. And then in this case, most of the runners were running in the morning, and we had one runner running at like 2 p.m.
Cool.
So then it just cooked, and it was ready at noon when we wanted to eat.
Yeah.
And then we just threw on
Did
some.
everybody like it?
Oh, they loved it.
Did they eat
finished all of it.
Yeah.
And then Kid One had made cornbread, and they ate all of that.
Nice.
So the way you make this is, and you can plus up the recipe as needed. What we usually do for just our family, and we like leftovers, but it's 1 pound of ground beef, 1 pound of ground pork. If we want to get fancy, we throw in a couple strips of bulk bacon that's been diced or pancetta. 1 or 2 bell peppers, depending how big they are, cut down into a dice. 1 onion, usually a white onion or a Spanish onion. Dice that up. I'll take a jalapeno and put a really small fine dice on it.
Nice.
And garlic. Well, it's us, so it's usually like it's like 4 to 6 cloves
We like garlic.
that I then, after they've been peeled, I'll smash them and then mince them up very small. I don't use the pre-minced stuff.
It's not an overly garlicky flavor either, in case you're hearing 4 cloves of garlic. Oh my gosh, that sounds like so many. It's really not.
So I'll start out, I'll turn on the crock pot on low, and as I do the garlic, I throw that in, and then I start chopping up my onion. And this is if I'm making it, I'm not on the go. I'll chop up my onion, throw it in. So it's still starting to get warm on there. Then I'll do the peppers and throw those in. Then I'll go and brown the beef, throw it in. Brown the pork, throw it in. Brown the bacon or pancetta, throw it in. Then I'll take 1 can, it's one of those little 14-ounce cans, or 14 and a half, whatever they come out, of the fire-roasted diced tomatoes. And sometimes they come with green chilies. Got to watch out that with our kids, it's a little bit too much heat for them.
Yeah, they don't like spicy.
But the fire roasted ones had a nice flavor. Throw that in. And then if it's just our family, I'll put in a cup of beer. If I'm cooking for a team or youth sports or people I don't know, I leave the beer out.
Yeah.
And I'll go with a combination of water or like chicken or beef stock or vegetable stock or whatever we got around. And then it's just a matter of seasoning and spices, some chili powder, some pepper. I always like smoked paprika, a little bit of cumin, not too much. You don't like the cumin.
I like cumin is no, actually I don't. I was
Don't
thinking
like
about
cumin.
You said cumin and I was thinking smoked paprika, and that's the one where
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe just use regular paprika.
So I'm not going to give away all of my my spice blend, but the usual chili spices. Put it in there and give it a stir and let it cook. You can do it if you're really in a rush. 3 to 4 hours on high. but you really want about 8 to 10 hours on low. When you're done, you serve it up, and then you put jalapeno slices on top, some cheese, like cheddar cheese, sharp cheddar cheese, and then like a dollop of sour cream.
Cool.
Yeah. And if you don't care about carbs, have it on over the top of cornbread. You can make low carb cornbread alternatives. We've played with some of those. Some of them are good, some aren't. But I usually don't even bother. So that's my chili.
Yum. It's so good.
But that's not what we made when we were tailgating down in Florida.
Nope.
Jess, what did we do down in Florida, and what have we done since then when we're doing more of our favorite southern style tailgate?
Seafood boils.
And how do we do that?
You take the seafood and you throw it in a pot and you boil it until it's done.
You mix a drink and watch your husband do it.
That's accurate. I have no idea how to do it. You go ahead and tell everyone.
So this was a favorite because we could get a bunch of us together and like people would each bring ingredients when we make it. You get basically a turkey fryer.
Yeah.
You know, the propane thing, you stick a pot on it, and we usually use one that has the inside bucket with all the holes in it. You fill it up with your fluid, and we used to use beer when we were in college. Since then, we use a lot of water. You season the water with your whatever mix of Cajun spices or Old Bay or whatever you want to use.
Yep.
And in goes your ingredients. So if you're using potatoes, throw those in first. You want the little round ones, not giant ones.
Don't put like an Idaho potato in your seafood boil.
You mean like a russet?
Yeah.
No, you want like the little reds or the little golden ones.
Yep.
Throw them in after about 20 minutes, and this is all going to depend on how hot your burner is going and everything. So you just kind of eyeball it, poke them with a fork. When they're starting to get done, throw in your corn on the cob, and for each cob, you want to cut it into like thirds.
Yeah,
so
you don't want big honking pieces of.
Because this is eat with your hands, and you're going to put it out on a picnic table or someone's tailgate of their picnic truck that you put newspaper down on.
Yes.
Throw the corn in. Around this, about halfway through the corn, so the corn's going to go for about 20 minutes. About halfway through, you'll throw in your andouille sausage that you've also cut up into bite-sized links.
So good.
Then in about your last 5 minutes, you're going to throw in shrimp. And if you want to get really fancy, you can start throwing in crawfish and crab.
You want to get really fancy.
Yeah. And if you want to get really fancy, the other thing we do is like our steamer basket that goes on the whole turkey fryer thing. We actually, in addition to the big basket down below where you boil the stuff, on top, we've got a smaller basket that's a steamer one. So we'll put this in at the very, very end, and we'll put mussels and clams up there.
Yep.
So this is all boiling away down below, and the steam's coming up, and it's hitting the seafood, and they're releasing their juices as they open up. It's all done. Like I said, you pull the inner liner out, throw it all down. Maybe sprinkle a little bit more Old Bay on top just real quick. You got your hot sauce ready to go. For those who aren't watching their carbs, saltines. We've talked before about our favorite CJ appetizer was just because we were poor college students. We'd eat at CJ's and we just have saltines and cocktail sauce as our appetizer. But anyway, it's fun. It's easy. It's social because it's just, especially you want peel and eat shrimp. You can get the ones that have been deveined and sliced, but you want to peel that shell off. One, the shell is adding flavor to the spoil the whole time, but also you just want it messy and yummy. And you just sit there and talk as you're peeling these things, or you're doing the crawfish and you're pulling the tail out and then sucking the head and working on the mussels and the clams, or maybe oysters lightly steamed. Yeah, so good. And of course, you're having a beer or a cocktail with it. Yes. Let's move on to, we know I was coming out how to put these, and it's like, you can do these for football or hockey games or whatever, but these out of our favorites for last fall when we were doing the tailgate meals, because we had hockey practice and we had so many kids playing and we had to feed them, that was like, okay, you go into the rink and have practice, you come out here and eat, and back and forth.
Yeah.
So I broke it into two. We've got the hockey practice faves, hot and cold. Why don't you take care of hot?
Okay. Well, I can tell you what it is. Are you ready?
Oh yeah, I forgot. I dreamed this one up.
You did. So, but it's an easy chicken calzone, and it is delicious.
Wait, it's an easy what?
Easy chicken calzone.
Oh, I thought it was an easy chickie.
No, that doesn't work for me.
Anyway,
easy chicken calzone. Calzone. No.
Okay.
I'm not really Italian.
Yeah.
I'm German.
These aren't very calzone either, but they kind of are. It's kind of a cross between a calzone and a pasty.
And a pasty.
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 Pasties go in your nipples. Pasties go in your mouth.
You get so angry about this one. Of all of the words that I like to mispronounce on purpose.
Oh my. It's basically a hand pie. But anyway, for this, I went and we were in a rush and I wanted to do something kind of warm for the kids, but they would like. So I went to the grocery store and they had rotisserie chicken that they had already cut off the bone. They chopped it up and shredded it.
Yeah.
And it was chicken breast. So I bought that and it was cold. I bought cream cheese. I bought shredded mozzarella, some green onions, but you could use chives too. And I got that, that pastry dough they do like crescent rolls.
Phyllo dough? No.
Like crescent rolls. The kind that comes in the can.
Oh, yeah. Ow.
And it's like the dough rolls out and it's perforated. And it comes in like generic store brands and also name brand that has like a little dude that goes hee hee.
Yeah, you all know the one.
Yeah, you all know the one. So, and it has the thing where you peel the wrapper off and then you've got the tube and you got to usually use a spoon, but I just use my thumb and it goes poof, and it opens up.
And it scares the hell out of you every single time for your entire life.
You maybe. So anyway, to make these, we opened this up and I rolled these out. And instead of having the triangles, I left them in squares. And where the perforation was down the diagonal, I just used my thumb and mushed it down right there to kind of hold it together.
Cool.
So in a bowl, I took the chicken, the cream cheese, the shredded mozzarella, the green onions, and some black pepper and a little salt. And I mixed it with a spatula, and you just kind of eyeball to get a good mixture. And if you're watching your macros, then measure it as you go and keep track of how much you're putting in things. If you're not, and like in this case, I was making it for the kids, just went until like it looked yummy. Put a dollop in each of your squares, and then fold it over and pinch and crimp. Roll it over.
That's the fun part.
Yeah.
Pinch.
Because the chicken is already cooked and shredded, really what you're doing is when you put it in the oven, follow the cooking instructions for your crescent rolls, your pastry.
Yeah.
And when it cooks and browns, it's going to warm up the chicken. It's going to melt the cheeses. It's going to be ooey gooey warm and everything.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes out of the oven, I'm like, you don't have to do anything extra. You're just looking for a golden brown outside.
Yeah.
Put it in foil, wrap it up. That'll keep them warm. And actually, then I took those and put them in just like Tupperware, generic Gladware or whatever.
Yeah.
Loaded up, took them in the car. And so when it didn't even matter if the kid who was on the ice first came out, it was still warm when they were, got a nice warm thing. For me, I took the filling. I didn't have the pastry part, and I put it in a low-carb tortilla. Mm-hmm. And it was good to go.
Both versions are very delicious.
I mean, you could just have it as like a chicken salad.
Exactly. You
cheesy
can just
chicken salad.
The chicken. It's great.
Yeah. How about the cold favorite? Hockey practice favorite? Cold dish.
Banh mi's.
Banh mi's are go-to around here.
Kids love them. You wouldn't think they would because they have pate on them, but they do.
So banh mi is a Vietnamese sandwich, and it's really influenced by a lot of different things because so many people were passing through Vietnam. I mean, the French occupied it for a while. The roll, a true banh mi roll, is hard to get in some places because it has rice mixed into the dough.
Oh.
Or rice flour.
Okay.
But, you could also do it with a crusty French roll.
Yep.
Or a sub bun. But, if you're watching your carbs, you can do it as a lettuce wrap. You can do it with a low-carb tortilla or whatever. But somehow you need some sort of vessel to hold your sandwich.
Yes.
Then you need your veggies. You need some combination of carrots, radishes, cucumbers, bell peppers, and spicy peppers. And those are usually, traditionally, pickled. Now, you got to watch out when they start pickling veggies because the part of the pickling process a lot of times involves sugar. And then now all of a sudden it's these hidden carbs. So when I make them, I usually just do it raw veggies. And we'll take either shredded carrots or we'll do the little carrot chips.
Yeah.
Where it's cut up, and same with the radishes and everything, and put that in. And then also cilantro is a mainstay in this. But if you hate cilantro like Jess, you're probably not going to put it in.
It tastes like soap. I don't know why it doesn't taste like soap for you.
Genetics. We talked about the genet on the Nice Genes episode.
We did. But still.
Also going into this are your meats, and you can do all sorts of stuff. Roast pork, chicken, turkey, salami, bologna, mortadella. Mortadella not being very traditional.
Don't eat mortadella. It's disgusting.
You like bologna.
Yeah, it's great.
And mortadella is Italian bologna.
It's got all kinds of weird in it. Do not
just
eat
big
that.
globs
It's
of fat.
Cool.
Yours has been emulsified to
That's
the
right.
whole thing.
It has, and it is all the same color, and it looks exactly the same with the same texture.
Yours bologna
It's
is
fine.
so thick, whereas the mortadella is
I don't
like
buy the thick
super
one.
paper,
You do.
paper thin.
Ha-ha.
Well, you ate it.
Clearly, I have had too
All right.
much whiskey.
Pate, and you can do this. There's so many different versions of pate, but usually it's a liver pate. And basically think about all those German charcuterie type things they do.
They're great.
They are great. You could also do ham, pepperoni, capicola, or some mixture of. So really, you just get your meats in there. Your condiments, you got mayo. Maggi sauce is a traditional favorite. We usually skip that one, but you can also do olive oil and vinegar if you want to go more Italian with it. Sriracha is a must for you and me.
Yeah.
You can also do chili paste, especially Thai chili paste. Mm-hmm. And then you put everything in there on your bun, wrap it up. We use parchment paper. We usually wrap it up and put a little paper, piece of masking tape around it. And on the masking tape, we can write everybody's names.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's exciting. You got the veggies in there for the kids. And usually when I tell the kids, I will write this out. And it's like, okay, bread, you need 1.
Yeah.
Veggies, at least 2. Mm-hmm. And that way makes them put in at least 2 different types. Meats, at least 1. Condiments, I don't actually make them put any condiments in.
Nope.
Parchment paper, wrap it up, a must, so it's not a hot mess all over the place.
So kids 1 through 3 are really great about following your instructions. Kid number 4 is off on her own planet and eats her
cucumbers. She wants just all cucumbers. A cucumber sandwich.
She eats her banh mi completely destructed. She eats her banh mi completely deconstructed.
It's completely deconstructed because she destructed it.
Yeah, she did.
Destruction.
And usually it's just made out of bread and cucumbers. But still, sometimes she'll have a piece of meat, but she doesn't eat them all together. She eats them piece by piece. She's great fun.
She's cute. Well, those are our dishes for this episode. But before we go, we've got to share some stories and experiences. And we'll keep it short because we want to keep the episode short, too. Jess, what is your favorite tailgate story/experience?
My favorite is actually, I think it was from when we first moved to Florida State. And your friend called and said, I'm going to take you guys to the game and I'm going to take you to all of the tailgates and it's going to be so much fun.
Oh, he's your friend too.
I know. I adore him.
I was hoping you would tell this story.
And so we were like, okay, that'll be fun. And so we go around and one of the first tailgates, and I was expecting like pickup trucks and like hamburgers and
charcoal grill type stuff.
Chips, like standard.
Coleman stoves.
Yeah, like standard tailgating stuff. And we get there and he's like, okay, you need to prepare yourselves because there is nothing like Florida State tailgate. And we were like, yeah, whatever. I'm sure it's the same as everywhere else. It is not.
Well, I had had a year of this before you got there. So
You knew.
I knew.
I didn't know.
This was your first Florida State game.
It is like full on. People park there the night before or 2 nights before.
Thursday for a Saturday game.
They pitch gigantic tents. They have TVs set up that are hooked up to cable, which I have no earthly idea how they managed to do this in the early 2000s, but they did. But anyways, one of the first ones that he took us to, I think, was for his old fraternity, right?
His old fraternity brother.
Yes.
Was hosting,
And,
who is also a partner of one of the largest law firms in Tampa.
Yes. So they had like this gigantic piece of land staked out, and they had, I don't know, like 6 tents pitched. And then
those pop-up tents.
Yeah,
And it was a 20 by 20, and I believe they had 4 of them.
Oh, okay.
Well, 4 20 by 20s, but then they put down AstroTurf carpet on the parking lot, so it looked like it was green.
Okay, so then they just had tables full of food, and I was like, wow, that looks amazing. And I get closer to it. It's Olive Garden. They had their tailgate catered by Olive Garden, so there were unlimited breadsticks, and that was magnificent.
Well,
but then they had the magical liquor table, and I was like, yeah, what do you have over there? And they're like, what can you possibly dream up? We can make it for you. I was like, okay, well, that's awesome.
Well, pump the brakes right now. Wait. It wasn't just we. The guy who is our friend's friend, who is this partner in a major law firm, goes, what can I make for you? Gentlemen, the keg's over there.
Yeah, it was.
He takes you by the hand and it's like, what can I mix for you?
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, well, we're going to go look at these 2 massive flat screens, which was a big deal back in the early 2000s.
Right.
Hooked up to satellite dishes.
Yes. And don't forget the leather reclining
There
chairs.
was 2 leather recliners.
My
under this
mind was
tent.
completely blown by this. I was like, where the hell are we? We're in Tallahassee. What? So yeah.
And these are just the pop-up canopy tents like we used to use for like the cross-country team and stuff. Only they were
No,
huge.
I feel like they were nicer than that.
They were nicer, but they're also, I used 10 by 10s and these were 4 20 by 20s. But this is,
I feel like they also had like the sides set up so you couldn't
did.
see inside of
this
it.
was a sizable space though.
Yeah. It was so much fun. So much fun. So that's probably my favorite tailgating story. What do you have over there for yours?
Mine was actually, we met up with a bunch of friends. We did a seafood boil with, especially like Jeannie and Dan were leading the way on that one. And I think that was the first time we did a seafood boil. Like you and I had a seafood boil at a tailgate. We're like, this is awesome. And it obviously made quite the impression on us. I guess, and not that trip, but another one was, when we were wandering around and we got these plastic jugs. They look like the big water jugs you would get at the office for the water tank and everything, but they were smaller. And we had rum and cokes on those, and we had a nice Florida Cana rum, the really well-aged one. And then mixed it with Coke because we were idiots. We were mixing with Coca-Cola, and we just went walking around with our jugs of rum.
Yep, we did.
And seeing people and talking to people and watching the band perform, and then we went into the game. So between the food,
Indeed,
it was
we did.
that cookout with Jeannie and Dan, and we were throwing a football around and having fun and waiting for it to cook, and then after it was done, just eating it off the tailgate of a pickup truck. But also just you and I walking around and enjoying all the craziness that is a weekend of
Yeah, it's
college
really
football.
fun to people watch during a tailgate. It's always entertaining.
And there's like one section off in a grassy field. There's some kids out there playing Quidditch, and we're like, okay, you guys know you don't actually fly, right?
They're pretending. Don't ruin their fun.
Yeah.
We had a friend of ours that he and his brother bought a vintage fire truck, and they restored it. And they put in
1911 open cockpit fire truck.
Yep, and they would bring it to the game every time there was a home game, and they had it so that the water tanks were like kegerators, basically, and it was pretty awesome.
You remember the ambulance they redid just before we left?
Vaguely, like a
The
tiny
old
memory of
ambulance. But back, when you opened up the doors, the side panel came up, if I remember correctly, and it had a TV, but you went inside and he had deep fryers.
No, I
And
really
he had
don't remember this.
a whole kitchen cooking, like almost like a food truck in the back.
Nice.
So awesome. And then he bought a chunk of property across from the stadium so he could just park his
Yes, he did.
restored vehicles.
On game day.
Lots of fun.
Yeah.
Hey, game day is not just for us. It's not game day without cocktails. So, Jessica, favorite game day cocktail or drink?
I think that my favorite tailgating cocktail would probably either at this point be an old fashioned or going back to my all-time favorite. Let's go with a Mai Tai. Those are not carb friendly. I mean, yeah, not low carb friendly. They are not low carb friendly.
We did a low carb version of a hurricane.
That's a hurricane. It's not a Mai Tai.
Or, I don't know why I'm thinking hurricanes. Because I'm thinking football. Yeah.
Yeah.
You did a low carb version of Mai Tais on
Did
one
I?
of the episodes. Yeah.
Okay, but still. Anyways, what's your favorite tailgating cocktail?
When we were in D.C., we went to some football games there because the company I worked for had season tickets to the now Washington football team.
Yeah, they were the Redskins then.
Yeah.
It's fine.
The WFT. And so the company had a tailgate because the owners had club level seats. But when they stopped going and we had a tailgate because you had to enter like a
raffle.
Well, it was kind of a raffle. It was like forced pick, like what's your first choice, second choice, third choice. And I would get a bunch of people from my office together and we would just conspire to make sure our picks were all the same so we could all get a game together. And we had one where you and I were like, or I was like the senior most person from the company there. So we're taking charge of this thing and we were cooking out and we were making s'mores and all sorts of stuff. But we had a bottle of Irish whiskey. And we didn't even make cocktails with it. We were just drinking Jameson. That was fun. honestly, during football these days and even tailgating, I just want to have a bottle of whiskey and maybe some ice cubes.
Cubes.
Old fashioned can't go wrong. I love a Sazerac, but I really don't want to take the time to mix the whole thing. So just some whiskey. But I do enjoy a beer. Just it's all things in moderation. I just don't want to have like 4, 5, 6 beers.
Same. I don't want to have 6 beers either.
Remember that Will Ferrell thing?
Yes, I do.
I has 4 beers with the landlord. Anyway, this is our tailgate episode. Maybe we'll revisit it another time, but those are our favorites. Those are how you make them. It's tailgating. It's not fine dining. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't be out there measuring everything. Just rough it in and what tastes good and do it and cook outside and eat it outside and be with friends and be social. And that's what it's all about. And then go enjoy the game. Maybe. Or just keep tailgating and listen to the cheers from the distance.
There you go.
Yeah.
Might be more fun that way.
Yeah.
Depends on how much you like football.
Or hockey or cross country or whatever. Anyway, but speaking of fun, this has been fun.
Yes. Loads of fun.
This has been the 81st episode of the Red Arrow Health and Wellness Podcast. Go back. We got 80 other episodes for you to check out. But for now, I need to go to bed.
Me too.
It's a late night. I got stuff to do tomorrow. So, Jess, until next time.
Bye.
Bye.